Good evening and welcome to you. Welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson and a very special welcome to those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com. So in today's program, as you heard, we're going to be talking about vaccine mandates, vaccine policies, and joining us to have that discussion, we have attorney at law, Kadria Folks. We also have Arod Gosai joining us from Ghana. He's also an attorney. We have with us President of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, Helene Davis White, as well as President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, John Mahfood. Before we get to all our guests, though, Kalisha Williams has this overview. And thank you so much for staying with us. And remember, our hashtag is TVJ All Angles. And you can also WhatsApp us at 381-0072, 381-0072. So thank you all so much for joining us. It's great to have you on. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Gosai, since Ghana has already gone a little way down the road with this. Can you tell us a little bit about how the policy is working and how it's been received?
Good night. Thanks for having me. Good night to my fellow panelists and to your viewers and listeners. Well, since the implementation by the government of Guyana, there was some resistance, not resistance that led to any protest or demonstration, except for one or two institutions, I believe the health institutions, some health institutions, the employees were complaining. But that died down rather quickly. And so the public institutions and the public places, they are implementing and enforcing the government's mandate as issued in the very recent COVID-19 measures, emergency measures. And what we've seen happen since is that although there is no requirement for private institutions to carry out the mandate, a lot of private institutions have gone on board and are requiring either a vaccination card or the negative PCR test before you can enter their private institutions. So far, despite the early hiccups, it is, in my view, going rather smoothly. Even the vaccination of 12 years old and over children has taken a very positive step, in the sense that the very first day that the vaccines were rolled out, over 1,000 children 12 and over got vaccinated. And even though we're having some resistance, the vaccines are there and people are taking the vaccines. There was a recent court challenge by some employees challenging the enforcement of that requirement. And in that high court case, I don't have the judgment as yet. A written judgment has not been given. But what has happened? The applicants in that case had asked the judge to implement some interim measure to stay the requirement for the vaccination, but the judge refused that order. So at least for the past, these measures were implemented in September, and we're half of October already, and it is going rather smoothly so far.
Okay, could I ask you in relation to the court case, what was the basis of the challenge? Was it a constitutional challenge?
Yes, it was, on the basis that you are interfering with your freedom of movement and right to work and a whole host of constitutional rights that they say are guaranteed under the Constitution. I don't want to get into the argument on that as yet. I'm just answering your question about how it is happening so far.
Sure. I understand. I was just interested because, of course, I'm pretty sure you would be aware of the opinion that had been issued in relation to the Eastern Caribbean from Professor Belantoine, as well as the former head of the CCJ, saying that in that jurisdiction, they believed it would be constitutional to mandate vaccines. And the Jamaican Bar Association has also issued a legal opinion saying they believed that a court would not rule vaccine mandates unconstitutional here in this jurisdiction. So the ruling then is going to be eagerly awaited.
Yes, indeed. But I can say as well that this whole issue about fundamental rights have been decided by the courts from USA throughout the Commonwealth, even in the Eastern Caribbean. I haven't seen a Jamaican case, but I'm sure there are, which clearly pronounce and repeat that your constitutional rights are not absolute. They're qualified. They're qualified by the Constitution itself that gives you that right. And there are a whole host of legal cases backing up that argument that your rights are not absolute.
So given the fact that what the policy says or what the gazetted order says in Ghana is that you can't enter unless you're vaccinated or you have a negative PCR test, but PCR tests here are expensive. I suspect they are in Ghana as well. So is it that essentially people are just getting vaccinated rather than having to present a negative test every week?
Well, I believe that is what is driving those who are adamant at force in refusing to take the vaccines, because the PCR test is in US dollars about $80. So if you have to find $80 every time you want to enter a public building, it's going to be difficult. No, it is not just the negative PCR test. You have to make an appointment. So it's not a situation where you have an emergency case to deal with, let's say renewing your passport, for example, that you can just show up without a vaccine and just show up with a negative PCR test. No, you have to make an appointment if you don't have a vaccine.
Okay, let me bring in Helene Davis-White here, because Helene, apart from the companies that were named in the overview that Kelisha did, we've of course heard now NCB has also issued a policy on that, and that the Staff Association is taking issue as well. And so we're seeing this happening in more and more companies. We heard that clip from the Prime Minister. Tell me your reading of where we are on this matter. You're muted. We're not hearing you.
I'm sorry. Clearly, we're in a situation now where, you know, I think it could almost be described as a situation where tempers are beginning to flare, because there are opposing sides to this whole situation. And depending on what side you are, you end up with problems. From our standpoint, we have indicated clearly that we don't think enough has been done to convince persons to take the vaccine. And therefore, you should ensure that that is done before you move to any question of coercing persons into taking the vaccine. And in looking at this, we are actually influenced by the WHO considerations in respect to vaccine mandates. The WHO itself is saying that you have to ensure that certain things happen before you get to the point of considering mandatory vaccinations. And they have actually indicated what they think is meant by mandatory vaccination, because it's not truly mandatory in most countries, because it's not under pain of your being prosecuted and brought before a court or anything. It's really that you are being coerced into taking the vaccine. We believe that at this point in time, enough has not been done, and we still continue to hold that view. We believe that the government and employers have more to lose by going this route than by seeking to follow through on all of the steps that we agreed needed to be taken. One other thing that we are concerned about, the government itself indicated what was its timeline in terms of where it would want to be in terms of vaccinating the citizens. And it said it wanted to have just about 700,000 persons vaccinated by the end of September, with a view to getting to close to 70% by the end of March of next year. I don't see that we are outside of that we should be panicking to the extent that we feel that we have to coerce persons into taking the vaccination at this time. The government itself would be going against the timeline that it had set if it goes the route of saying to workers that you have to be vaccinated or else.
All right, hold that thought. Let's go to break. We're going to pick up. Remember our hashtag. It's TVJ All Angles. Remember as well, you can WhatsApp us at 3810072. Stay tuned. We'll soon come.